Hello YouTube, welcome back to Slimmin' It with me, Shelby. So for this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a recipe that I cannot stop making. I think I've had this almost every day for like the past 2 weeks. My husband loves it as well. It's super simple, delicious, packed with veggies and protein and lots of flavor. So the first thing I'm doing here is peeling and chopping 2 sweet potatoes. Normally I would just use 1 large sweet potato, but mine were kind of small, so I did the 2. And I just chop those up and then dice them in little squares, put those in a bowl and set that aside, and then get started prepping the next ingredient. Next up is a fresh bundle of kale. You can either cut this up with scissors or a knife or whatever you want, but I just find it easier and quicker to pull it apart with my fingers and throw it in a bowl. Do not be afraid of the kale, you guys. It cooks down really nicely and it just takes on the flavor of whatever seasonings you add to the dish. Next, I cut up 2 serrano peppers. First, you want to cut them in half and scoop out all the seeds. If you leave the seeds in, your dish is going to be so spicy, and that is not a bite that you want to take. Your tongue will literally burn off. And if you don't like spice at all, just skip the serrano peppers. Next up are these beautiful, colorful Harvest cherry tomatoes. This one was pretty big, so I actually cut it into 4 sections, but for the rest of them, I just cut them in half and put them in a bowl and set those aside. Next up is the tofu. So just cut open the package, take this over to the sink and drain all the liquid out. And then I'll take it back over to the cutting board and run my knife through it a bunch of times, vertically, horizontally. I'm basically just trying to get it into really small chunks before I put it into the pan, because once it is in the pan, you're going to like smash it up, almost like a scrambled egg consistency. So getting it in small pieces now helps out with that later. And then normally I would use an entire bundle of green onion, but I used half of it for the same dish the night before. I told you guys, I love this. I make it a lot. So I dice all of that up, and then after this, we finally start cooking. Next up, I put a big pan on the stove, set it to about medium-high heat, and add a little avocado oil onto the pan. A little tip to make sure that you're not using too much oil, I use vegetable stock instead. Always make sure it's either unsalted or low sodium, and keep that to the side of you because you're going to be using it throughout the entire cooking process.
3 minutes, starting now.
After the sweet potato has steamed up a little bit and gotten softer, I'll add the kale in, mix that around, and so it has time to cook down before I add the rest of the ingredients. Now, as I was editing this video, I realized I missed one of the main ingredients, which is black beans. You can do other beans, any other bean, red bean, pinto, tri-bean blend, but the black beans taste amazing and that's what I prefer. And as we were eating it last night, my husband was like, is something different here? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And as I'm watching the video back, I realized it was the beans, which is such a good source of protein and great for flavor. So when you're making this, make sure you add a can of low sodium or unsalted beans of your choice. Next up are the serrano peppers. I add those in and then I will lower the heat on the stove, put the top back on the pan and let that all simmer together for another 2 to 3 minutes or so. So next up, I add the tofu, and I do it in this order because the tofu will soak in and like take on the flavor of whatever seasonings you add afterwards. So I add some turmeric, and I will put in the description box below all the benefits of every ingredient in this recipe. Turmeric is like a magical spice, so I will let you guys know more about that below. I also use nutritional yeast because it gives it kind of like a creamy consistency and it's kind of like a cheesy flavor. It's also packed with protein, so I use nutritional yeast in cooking as much as I can. And as you can see, I continuously add some broth in. Anytime I see that it's getting a little dried out or just needs a little bit more moisture, I will just add a little bit of that in. So the last few things that you're going to add, because they don't need long to cook, are the cherry tomatoes and the green onions, and then mix that all together. This is where I would have added the beans as well, but like I said, I forgot those. So make sure you add the beans, mix it all together, and then cover it for like 4 to 5 minutes. It doesn't need long. And then your dish is good to go. So the way we eat this is scoop it into a bowl and then do like a big scoop of fresh salsa on top and mix that together. That's super delicious to have it that way. And then if we have leftovers, we will like reheat it and put that in a tortilla with some guacamole or just plain avocado, some more salsa, wrap it up and eat it that way. It's really delicious and you're gonna feel good after this meal. You can have a huge serving and not feel stuffed because it's mostly just veggies and tofu. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Please feel free to use it and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Bye.